All right, so the scoring is done. So let's count that as completed. We have the scoring down.
Yay!
Yep, on the game manager. All good. So now,
Three-quarters the way over there.
yep. Next is scoreboard. All right. So we can see here we have a modest scoreboard that Sassy made. Um,
Okay, listen, I don't watch sports.
but it is doable. It is manageable, workable for sure. Okay. So now what we're gonna do here is we're going to stop debug printing the score um, on the console, and we're going to take that score and we're going to update it over here on the actual scoreboard. We're going to do that. That's one thing we're going to do. Number two thing that we're going to do, we're going to give it a 60-second timer. So I don't want this game to be going on forever. I want to kind of give the player 60 seconds to see how many points they can get in 60 seconds. So that will be the last thing that we do actually. So we'll add a timer, and then we also have the player name. So we want to get the player name of who's playing. There's a couple different ways we can do that. We can use a start button and a trigger to start the game. That is also tied into the game manager because when someone presses a start button, it can trigger the event to the game manager to start the timer, to get the player name, number one, to start the timer, and then to reset the score to 0 so it can register correctly. So it's kind of like we're almost doing a little bit of game manager but mostly scoreboard here. So let's go ahead and let's work on this. So it is going to be a lot of it. It's going to be built out in the game manager actually. So let's start there. Let's start with the score. So let's go back to this script for the game manager. And instead of debug printing the score, we're going to delete that debug print code block. And we're going to go to our actions page. And we're going to get the display text. So we're going to grab the pill that says display text. It's under the text section. There's only one. So after the objects, there's a text section and it says display text. We're going to grab that. And we have display, and then we have this like string pill, and it says display on self. We do not want to display it on self. So what we want to do, did you find a display, Koblock?
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable. So we're going to the variables tab, and we're going to create an object variable because this is going to be the score. So we're going to call this object variable points. We'll call it points text, TXT, points text. And the reason I say that is because it's the object in this case is actually a text gizmo. So we're going to click confirm. So we should have a blue pill that's an object variable that's called points text. And that's going to be our number over here that's a 0. All right. But before we move forward, it says display. We need to display something on and not self. So let's remove self, and we're going to replace self with that points text that we just made because it needs to be displayed on an object, even which in this case is a text gizmo. So now it says display, and then it has I have a string here on points text. Well, I want to display the score, but if I just take that score variable and plug it in, I don't know if it shouldn't work, but it's not giving me any errors. I don't know why. Maybe it does work now. But if you go to values, I'm just gonna do it the way I know how. We're gonna go to values page, and we're gonna scroll down, and you'll see an option that says variable as string under typecasting. So I'm gonna grab that variable as string, and I'm gonna plug that into the display. Following?
Yeah.
Okay. So it should read display an empty uh, an empty field that says string as string on points text. And now I'm going to plug in that score. I'm going to duplicate that into that string. So I should say display score as string on points text. And that's what we want. You have that set up?
Yeah.
All
Doing
right. So
great.
now we're going to open up the properties panel to the game manager. And now you'll see it has a points text that is empty. So we need to reference it. So we're going to go to our number text over here. All right, we're going to open the properties panel to the number text gizmo that we want. And you'll grab the pill and connect it into that points text on the game manager. And you'll see the string of the connection that has been made. So now instead of it going to the console, I can go ahead and just test it here. And we should see the score update. There it is. So now my score is updating on the text gizmo that's going to be on the scoreboard. If I can make this. There you go. 60 points. It works for you? Let's see. Eminem. It does.
Slam
Amazing.
dunk.
Slam dunk for 30 points. All right, cool. All right, so we have the scoring part of our scoreboard working. And like I said, time we're going to do at the end, the timer, because it's a little bit more scripting. So now let's fill in the player. So to do the player, we're going to go back to our game manager script. So we're going to open up the script. And we're going to say when event is received. When event is received, and we're going to create a new event. So in this case, we're going to click on the new event. We're going to name this one game start. All right, so we call the event game start. And we're going to also include a param for this one. When game start is received with, we're going to add a param. It's going to be a player type. So we're going to switch the type to player, and we're going to name this player. Scratch that. We're going to name it playing. So we're going to name it playing because we don't want it to be player. It'll get confusing. And it's not a list. It's just one single player. So we're going to click confirm. So now I should read when game start is received with playing. And you'll notice it's a green pill with a little icon of like a person. So that is a player type variable. And so when the game start is received with playing, what are we going to do? Well, I want to grab that player's name, right? So what we're going to do this is we're going to go to operators, the operators page. We're going to scroll down past logic and basic operations, basic and advanced math. And we're going to keep scrolling down to an area that says player. And under the player section, so it's a little bit further down, under the player section, you'll see a lot of different options. One of the options is name of player. So we want to use that, but we can't use that yet because this is a pill, which means that we need a code block to insert this name of player into. But we're going to be using that in a second. So when the game is started with name of player, we want to display the name of the player on the text player over here. So we're going to be doing something very similar to what we just did with the score. So actually, let's go ahead and just copy or duplicate that display score as string on the points. We're just going to go ahead and click on it and then thumb right stick to the right. And now we've duplicated that line of code. We're going to drag that up to when game start is received with playing. And we're going to delete the points text and we're going to delete the score as string. So now we should have an empty display string on object. Do you have that, Sassy?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what are we going to display? We're going to go to our operators tab under player, and we're going to grab that name of player pill that we were looking for. So we're going to grab that name of player, and we're going to put that under the display portion. And now it should say display name of, and then an empty player pill. We're going to grab that playing green pill, and we're going to plug it in there. So now I should say display name of playing. So that's the player that we received the event with. And now it's saying, where do you want to display this? Well, we don't want to display it on that points text that we got. We want to display it on a different text gizmo. So we're going to create another variable. So a new variable, this is also an object because it's another text gizmo. And this one we'll call it player name. You can call it player name text gizmo if you need to. Just a little bit more clarity. But I called it player name text. It's an object, which is a text gizmo. And I'm going to drag that and put it on the object. So now when game start is received with playing, which is a player that is now playing, we're going to display name of the playing player on the player name text gizmo. Cool. We got that set up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we need to connect. We need to go back to our game manager object, open the properties panel, and you'll see we have a new empty slot for the player name text. So we're going to go to our object text gizmo here that says player on it. And we're going to go ahead and open the properties panel to that text gizmo, grab the reference pill, and connect it to the game manager properties panel for the player name text. So we have that set up. But now we need to send the event to the game manager for game start with the player. So to do this, we're going to pull out a trigger. So let's go to the build menu. Let's go to gizmos. We're going to grab a trigger, a brand new trigger. We're going to put it over the start button, just like so. And this will have its own script. So we're going to go to the build menu again, grab a new script, and we are going to name this script start button. Okay, so we have this new script and we're calling it start button, and we have this new trigger. Open the properties panel of the trigger and go ahead and connect the script, the attached script, start button. We're going to go ahead and connect it now. And everything else you can leave. So it's for players, it's not objects tagged, anything like that, because this is going to be a player's hand that's going to go into this trigger, and that's what we need. So that's all we need. So we have the trigger, a new trigger that has the start button script on it, and then we have the new script that we named start button, and there's nothing in the script, and we're going to work on it right now. Where are you at, Sassy? Good?
I believe I am. Would you like to double check to make sure that I am?
Let's see. So we have your start trigger. So your trigger, you just need to attach your script to it. So open the properties panel of your trigger and connect the script start button. Attach the script start button, I should say.
Oh, I did the start button is what I did instead. Okay.
Okay. All right. So now, what we want to have happen is we're gonna go to the events page. We're gonna scroll down to player events, and you'll see the first one is when trigger is entered by player. So in our start button script, that's what we want. We want when trigger is entered by player. And now we're gonna do something. So we're going to go scroll up. We're still in that same tab. We're going to scroll up to send event to object under event actions. So we're going to drag that right underneath when trigger is entered by player. And we're going to send my event to self. No, we're not. We are going to send game start. And then we obviously don't want to send it to self. So let's get rid of self, delete that. And we need to create a new variable because this trigger obviously is brand new. I mean, this script is brand new. So we're going to create a new variable and we're going to call this variable game manager. And it is a type object. So make sure we switch it to an object type, and it is not a list. We can click confirm. So now we have a new variable that's an object called game manager. We're going to go ahead and plug that into the target for this send game start to game manager. And we also are going to use a parameter, which is going to be player. So when trigger is entered by player, let's grab that green pill player and plug it into the parameter. All right. So it should read, when trigger is entered by player, send game start to game manager object with the player that just put their hand on the trigger. Simple?
Yeah, got it.
All right. So now let's connect it, because the trigger doesn't know where game manager is. We didn't connect it yet. So let's open up the properties panel of the trigger, and you'll see that when we open up the properties panel of the trigger, we have the start button script and we have an empty game manager. So let's leave this properties panel open. Let's go to our game manager object. Let's open that up and let's grab the pill of game manager and plug it into the empty slot here on the trigger. And you'll see the line connection. Perfect. Okay, so now I think we could test it. Let's go ahead and restart the world. I restarted it. Go ahead and put your hand on that game start button. And there's my name. Okay, so we have the player button working. Sassy, does your player button work? I see your name on the board.
Yes.
So it does. Amazing. All right, so we have the score working. We have the player name working. So now that we have the score note and the name working, let's go ahead and work on this time. So we're going to do a 60-second timer. So basically what we will do is, let's go back to the game manager, and we're going to go ahead and do a 60-second countdown in the game manager. So to do this, we're going to grab an event, and we're going to say when event is received. Let's grab when event is received. We're going to name this countdown. Right? Okay, so we're going to name this countdown. And all right, so we go ahead and do when countdown is received. We are going to create a new variable, and we're going to call it is a number type. We're going to call this timer. I'm going to click confirm. So now we have a timer variable. We're going to stay in that variables tab where we just created the timer, and we're going to change that to 60. So that's like the default. So the default's always at 60. And then what we'll do is we're going to go to the values tab. We're going to scroll all the way to the top, and we're going to grab another set to code block. We're going to place this set to code block underneath the game start with playing. And it doesn't matter where you place it. We can place it before display name of playing or after. It really doesn't matter. We're going to go back to the variables. We're going to grab our timer, put it in the variable slot. So we're going to set timer to, and now we have an empty value. We're going to go to our values page or tab. We're going to scroll down to number input, grab that number input, plug it into the value section. It is defaulted to 0, so we want to update that to 60. So now it should read like this. When game start is received with playing, display name of playing on player name text, and then set timer to 60. That's what we should have. And then right underneath that, we're going to go back to events, and we're going to grab the send event to object and plug that underneath our set timer to 60. We are going to send countdown to self. So when the game starts, we're going to display the name of the player. We're going to set the timer to 60, and then we're going to send countdown to self. All right. Countdown to self is empty right now. There's nothing there. So now we're going to work on that. This is going to be a loop. So basically what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a send event with delay. So it's right underneath our send event to object. instead of grabbing that one, we're going to grab send event with delay. Let's grab that, put it underneath our sent countdown. I mean, underneath our when countdown is received, we're going to put the send my event to self after 1 seconds. We're going to put it there. We're going to change it because we don't want it to send my event to self. We want to send with delay. We want to send countdown. So it should read like this. When countdown is received, send countdown to self after 1 seconds. Got that? All right, perfect. So this is a loop. This is what we call a loop. So basically, once countdown is received for the first time, it's going to keep sending countdown to itself every single second, once a second. So now we got to put some stuff in this loop. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a set2, and we're going to put that as the first thing that we do in this when countdown is received.
Where's the set2 at?
Under the values tab.
Okay.
And we're going to grab the variable from our variables tab, the timer, and we're going to set timer to, and we're going to put a minus sign. So we got to find that minus sign in the operators tab. On all the way at the top under basic operations, you'll find the minus symbol. We're going to grab that minus symbol and put it in the value portion of the set timer to. All right. And so now we're going to set timer to A minus B. So in the A part, we're going to put the variable timer again. So, and then in the B part, we're going to go to values. We're going to grab a number input. And we're going to, it's defaulted to 0. We want to change it from 0 to 1. So it should read, when countdown is received, set timer to timer minus 1. And then send countdown to self after 1 second. All right.
Perfect.
Good.
Should
Awesome.
I have a set above the send, or does that not matter?
The set has to be above the send.
Okay. Fix that. There we go.
Okay. All right. So let's read it from the top. When game start is received with the player that is playing, we're going to display the name of the player on the text. We're going to set timer to 60, and then we're going to send countdown to self. So let's follow that. Countdown is when countdown is received. So countdown is only received when the game is started. So countdown is now received, and we're going to set timer to timer minus 1. So it's 60 minus 1, which is 59. Then we're going to send countdown to self after 1 second. So in 1 second, it's going to execute again. Countdown is received. So 59 minus 1 is 58. Then after 1 second, 58 minus 1 is 57. Then after 1 second, etc. So now we just created a timer. But if it gets down to 0, it's going to still send countdown after 1 second. And it's going to go to -1, -2, negative, and we don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to know when it gets to 0. So to do this, we're going to go to our events tab. We are going to grab a if control. So we're going to go to our events tab, and we're going to grab the if. So this is going to be your first if in this script, in this session. We're going to grab one of those, just if, and we're going to put it underneath the set timer to timer minus 1. We're going to put it underneath right there. And now you should see it says if and then an empty condition pill. So we're going to go to our operators. We're going to grab at the very, very top of this page of the operators, we have the logic and we have the double equal sign. We're going to grab that one and put it inside of that if condition. So now it should say if A equals B. So we're going to put on the A slot the timer variable. And then in the B slot, we're going to put 0. So you can get a numbers variable at the values. Also, another way is you can just grab one of those ones from timer minus 1 or after 1 second. You can just duplicate that and put it into B and then erase it to 0. Set it to 0. So that's a quick way. So you don't have to go to the values tab every single time. You can just grab a number that you see around here and then just change the actual value after you duplicate it. So now I should read this. When countdown is received with, and then it's not receiving with anything, set timer to timer -1, and then if timer equals 0, and then nothing, we have to set a set of commands if something happens. But we're going to actually do one thing. We're going to go back to our events under the control. We're going to grab another green one. It's called else. We're going to grab that else, and we're going to connect that else to the if. So there should make a connection, a green connection between each other, like kind of like a paired block. So it should
Where's that going again? Under if?
Yeah, it should be connected to if underneath.
Okay.
And it should make like one solid kind of block, right? So the countdown is at the bottom to send after 1 second. Let's take that send countdown to self after 1 second. Let's grab that and let's kind of attach it underneath the else.
So send countdown. Where is send countdown
at? So when countdown is received, we're setting timer to timer -1, if, else, and send countdown to self after 1 second. Grab that send countdown to self after 1 second and drag it underneath the else. Okay, so now, so what's happening here is when countdown is received, we're going to set timer to timer -1. And then it's going to ask where if it's a conditional statement. So it's going to check. It's like a checkpoint. So if timer equals 0, we're going to do an action. Right now we left it empty. There's nothing underneath there. If else, which means if timer does not equal 0, so if timer equals 30, then we're going to execute else. So it's kind of like if timer, so this is a checkpoint. The checkpoint is checking if the timer is 0. If it's not 0, then we're going to do the else, which is another word for like otherwise. So if timer is equal to 0, do A. Otherwise, do B. In this case, B is send countdown to self after 1 second. Got it? Does that make sense? So if timer equals 0, we're going to execute A. Otherwise, we're going to execute B. That's what an if-else statement means. So only if the timer equals 0, we're going to execute A. Otherwise, we're going to execute B, which is underneath the else. So right now, the else is sent countdown to self. But we need to put something underneath what happens if timer does equal 0. We need to do something. We need to do A, which we don't have anything for A, or, the A option. So what we want to do is we want the game to be over. That's what we want to do. So we're going to put send event to object underneath that if timer equals 0. So it should be inside between if and the else. We should put a send event, send myself to send my event to self. Got it? All right, we're going to change that name because we don't want to send my event. We're going to change the name and we're going to call it game over instead of my event. We're going to call it game over because the timer is 0 seconds. So we don't want it to keep sending the timer countdown anymore. We want to send game over to self. Okay. When game over is sent to self, let's go ahead and grab in the events tab again. When event is received, let's put that at the bottom. And let's say when game over is received. And
is it going to be at the very bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when game over is received, and we're just going to leave that there for a second to marinate, okay? And so I just kind of want to reiterate what we just done. So let's go back to the top. Let's go back to game start. So when game start is received with the player that is playing, we're going to show the name of who's playing. We're going to set the timer to 60, which is seconds, but it's really just the number 60. And we're going to immediately send countdown to self. When countdown is received, we're going to set timer to timer -1. And then it's going to check, does timer currently equal 0? If it does, we're going to send game over. Since timer doesn't equal 0, it's going to equal 59. It's not going to do send game over to self. It's going to do the otherwise or the else. And what's underneath else is send countdown to self after a delay of 1 second. So then we're at 59. After 1 second, it's going to send countdown to self. So now 59 minus 1 is 58. It's going to check again. Does timer currently equal 0? It does not. It equals 58. So since that's not true, we're not going to execute send game over. We're going to execute send countdown after a delay of 1 second. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool.
It sure does.
All right, so now we've just created our 60-second timer. All right, but we want to display this timer because right now we're not displaying this number anywhere. It's going to go 59, 58, 55, 54, and it's going to go every 1 second. But how does the player know that? So we need to go ahead and we need to display it on our time object. So let's go. We've already done this a couple times before. Let's go ahead and copy or duplicate the display on text. So you can either take the display score on string as text. Let's take that one. So go to your score event when score is received. Let's duplicate this display score as string on point text. Let's duplicate that. Let's drag it to the countdown section. And let's make it as the first thing. So it'll be 60, 59, yeah. Because when we display one, all right, no, so we need to display this. All right, so no, the first thing should be set timer to timer minus 1, and then the second thing should be display. And then instead of score as string, we're gonna go ahead and duplicate timer as string. So take one of the timer variable pills and put it in instead of score. So it should say display timer as string on, and we don't want to display it on the points because this is the timer. So let's delete that points text gizmo object. And now we need to create a new variable, and you can name it whatever you like. We're going to name it timer text. So we know that this is the object that we want to display the timer on. We're going to grab that variable, plug it into the object. So now it should read, when countdown is received, set timer to timer minus 1, display timer as string on the timer text object. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and pause and let's connect it. Let's connect the timer to the time. Let's connect our script that we just did. So go to your game manager object, open the properties panel up, and you notice we have another new empty slot. This is empty, and this one is for the timer. So we need to reference the timer text gizmo. So let's go to our 0 over here on our scoreboard. That's for time. Let's open up the property panels of that 0. And now we're going to grab that text blue pill from this 0, and we're going to connect it to our game manager empty slot for timer text. And you'll see the connection string made, and now they are connected. You got that one?
Yeah. Yay, I did that one.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's test. I like to test. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's see if Sassy got it first. I want to see. See how our pupil is doing over here. This is her first time ever scripting a game, a mini game. So let's see.
My timer's not working.
All right, timer's not working. Score is. Let's see if mine works, because it might not. And because sometimes I just like to, take a break and let me go. Oh, my timer
I did
is
something
working.
wrong. Oh no.
Look, my score's not working though. Let me see. Huh. Oh, there's my score. So maybe it didn't register, or I don't have that tag. Oh, it's working. Okay, so let's see what Sassy might have missed.
Oh, I missed something alright.
All right, let's see. So we got countdown. Where's your display? You put it under the game over.
Oh.
I don't know why you did that. Let's just put it back
This?
to where it should be. It should be under the countdown section, not under the game over. All right, go ahead and try it now. You have to press the start button.
Yeah.
There you go. But look, it is going up, and it is going up pretty fast. So we want it to be a countdown, not a count up. But no, this is great. This is learning. We are learning. Yay.
Take
All right,
all
so
time you want.
all right, so we're gonna go to her game manager here. Oh,
Okay.
it's because she has a double negative. So she has set timer to timer minus -1. Well, it's not timer minus -1, it's just timer -1.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Silly.
And then send countdown after 1 second. I don't know why it was moving so fast. Is there a second? No, everything else looks good. All right, let's restart the world and let's see if our timer works now properly. Start your game. There we go. Look at
Yeah.
that.
We did it. We we're not quite done,
We're
are we?
not done, but we're there. We're getting there. We're almost there. We got the
I
name. We
got
got the score. We
45
got the
seconds to
timer.
get points.
Yeah, let's go ahead, see how many points you can get in that time, because we want to make sure that when it gets to 0, it executes that otherwise, or that if else. So right now it's executing the it's checking every single second. It's checking to see if timer equals 0. And since it's not, it's continuing to send countdown to self. But once timer equals 0, it should stop the countdown. And for some reason, oh, did you hit the trigger again? Oh, you're hitting the trigger multiple times. Well, that's a good learning point, because we haven't finished everything, and that also goes into the game fidelity, as well into the game manager section, because we don't want people to be able to touch this multiple times, because every time they touch it, it's going to start at 60, right? And it's going to send an event every time. So we'll take care of that now. Actually, let's go ahead and take care of that. So stop the world. Let's go to, we're actually going to take care of this on the start button script that's on the trigger. So let's go to the script for the trigger for the start button. So let's go to the start button script, open that up. And as you can see, it's very simple. It's when trigger is entered by player, send game start to game manager. So that means if another player next to me touches it, it's also going to send game start with that player. And then so like, we don't want that. We only want one person to play at a time. So to do this, we're going to go to the variables tab and create a Boolean. So we're going to pick the type. It's a Boolean. And we're going to call this, we're going to name it game in progress. It's a little bit of a long name, but I want people to understand. So we're going to call it game in progress. And it's a Boolean type. So you see, it's like a pink. Once you save it, it says game in progress, and there's a false, and you can toggle it to true. We're going to leave it as false, and the variables tab. And what we're going to do is, we are going to go to the events. We're going to scroll up and grab an if, and we're going to put that as the first thing before we send game start. And then we're going to put an else, and we're going to connect that to the if at the bottom. So it should say if and else should be connected. And we're going to put the else, we're going to take that game start to game manager. We're going to slide that in to the else, underneath the else. So it's nested. It's kind of, it's inside of the else. And then for the if condition, we're going to put an operator.
Wait, what are we putting inside the else?
The send game event that you had already. Just drag it up to the else. Yeah.
All right.
And then for the if condition, we're going to put the double equal sign. So go to your operators, grab the double equal sign, put it in the condition. And then on the A, so it says A equals B. So on the A slot, we're going to put the variable, go to variables tab, grab the game in progress.
It's lost again.
So on the left side, on the A of that double equal sign, we're going to put game in progress variable. So go to variables tab, grab that, sneak it into the A. And then in the B slot, we're going to go to the values page, scroll down, and you'll see a pink, well, I'm not sure what color this is, but the purple pinkish value input that says Boolean input. We're going to drag that out, put it in the B slot, and it says false. Leave it as false. Excuse me. Yes, leave it as false. So it says if game in progress equals false, we're going to do the following. And we're actually going to drag send game start to game manager. We're going to remove that from the else, and we're going to put it under the if. Okay. So it should read if game in progress equals false, send game start to game manager with player. Cool. We need to add one more thing. If you're still in the values tab, scroll all the way up, get the set to, and put the set to either above, let's put it above the game start, send game start, put it right above the set to. And we're going to set the variable game in progress, plug that in, and then the value, go ahead and duplicate that false, plug it in, and then change that false to true. So it should say set game in progress to true, and then send game start to game manager. And we can actually delete the else. We don't need the else in this case. So we're just going to delete it. Okay. Let's see how we got it. Almost. All right. So just for the set and the send, have them to be nested to the if. So drag them slightly to the right and closer to the if, and then it will automatically kind of like Legos connect. There you go. Do it for both. Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So now what is happening here? So we can get some explanation. So when trigger is entered by player, we're gonna do, remember, if is a checkpoint. So it's gonna check if game in progress equals false. We're gonna do the following. We're gonna, number one, we're gonna set game in progress to true. Number two, we're gonna send game start to the game manager with player. Who is this player? The player that put their hand on the trigger. And now let's say I come by. Let's say you put your hand on the trigger, so the game got started and the game in progress got switched to true. And then I go by and I try to touch it, it's not gonna work. Why? Because game in progress is set to true. And it's gonna check, is game in progress false? It's not false. And since it's not false, it's not going to execute. Let's do an else. Actually, I know I said delete the else. Let's add the else back underneath the if. So it's connected at the very bottom of the if, but it's connected. And then we're going to do an action. Go to your actions tab, scroll down, all the way down in your actions tab, all the way to the bottom, just to see an option for show pop-up for player. Show pop-up for player. It's the middle one. Let's grab that one. Let's put it underneath the else, but so it's nested to the else. Okay. And now it says show pop-up for, and there's an empty player pill. Let's go ahead and grab that when trigger is entered by player. Let's grab that green pill and plug it into show pop-up for. And then it says show pop-up for player with, and then text. You can go ahead and delete that, go inside of that and erase the text, and we're going to replace it with game, type out game in progress. So now what's going to happen is somebody's playing and then someone else comes along and touches the start button. It's going to show a pop-up for that player that just touched it, and it's going to say game in progress. All right, we could leave everything else the same, as fine. And let's test it out, actually. All right, go ahead. Start your game.
Clear it out?
No. Just start the game. All right, so now if I touch it, all right, now come over to mine. Leave yours for a second. So I'm going to start, wait, I'm going to start my game. All right, now you try to touch it. Did you get a pop-up?
We did it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we did.
Okay. I did as well. So good job. So we're good on that.
Yay!
Awesome. So basically, we have the scoreboard done. So let's knock that one out. So let's go scoreboard is done. Game manager is almost done. It's really the central part of everything. So let's do leaderboard next. All right. So let's do before we grab out a leaderboard, we need to create a player persistent variable, also known as a PPV. Only the world creator can create player persistent variables. So I'm going to show you guys at home how you can do this. You're going to go open your build menu. You're going to go to this systems icon next to the world icon. And you'll see here you have quest, leaderboards, and persistent variables. We're going to create a persistent variable, create. These are only numbers. And I'm going to create here, let's create high score. So I'm going to create high score variable, save, and there we go. And while we're here, let's click on leaderboards and let's create a leaderboard. And this is gonna be highest. Oops. Highest score. Maybe just let's do highest score. That way it doesn't have the exact same name as the variable. All right. And let's create one more persistent variable. And we're gonna call this games played. So we're just gonna track two things. We're gonna track how many games were played and the highest score. And we're gonna create another leaderboard and do the same thing. We're gonna call this games played. And here we go. Games played. Perfect. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our game manager script. All right. So in the game manager script, remember that game over that we had? That's what we're going to focus on for right now. So in the game over section that we had when game over is received, we have nothing there. So what we want to do is we want to go to our values tab. The first thing we'll do is we're going to grab the set player persistent var 2. Let's grab that and put it underneath when game is over. And then it should say set change me to 0 for an empty player. So we're going to go ahead and do set, click the drop down box. Let's do high score and let's duplicate it. And then let's change the duplicated one to games played. So we should have one code block that says set high score to 0, and then one that says set games played to 0, and then both of the players' pills are empty. So let's grab the player first. So to grab the player, we need to go to our variables tab. We're going to create a new variable, and this is a player type, and we're going to call it active. All right, and that's it. Click confirm. So you see it created a green pill that says active. So this is a player variable. So a variable you can store information, change information. So
Will
I
this
need
be
to
an object or
player
no,
player
okay.
type player type.
Oh, player. Okay.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to set this player type. So we're going to go to values again, grab a set2. We're going to put this set2 underneath the game start section. So when game start is received, that's where we're going to put this set2. All right. So when game start is received with playing, set variable 2 and then value. So we're going to set active, the player variable we just created. So we're going to set active 2, and then the value is the playing that we received as a parameter with the game start. So plug that playing into the value. So I should say when game start is received with playing. So set active to playing. All right. So now what we've done is we got the player from the start button, and then we're immediately storing that player into the active player variable. So now we can now access this active player anywhere else in the script. Otherwise, you would not be able to grab it. The reason this is necessary is because when we scroll back down to game over, it's asking us who are we setting this high score for and who are we setting the games played for. And then we're going to drag into that player the active variable. Okay, so go ahead and put active for the player, empty player slot for the high score
Okay.
and for the games played. Good.
Okay.
All right, so we don't want to set it to 0 and we don't want to set the games played to 0. So let's remove those two things. So let's delete them. So it should just be an empty value. And we're going to put a plus sign in both of them. So the plus sign again is under the operators page. We'll go ahead under basic operations, grab a plus sign, put it into each one of the high score and games played. So we have set high score to A plus B for active, and then set games played to A plus B for active. Cool. So in the A slot, we're going to go to our values tab, and under set player persistent variable, we have a get player persistent variable. Let's grab that. It's a pill shaped. Let's grab that one and put it under the A of both of them, of high score and games played. Okay. And it's asking, so it should say get user persistent variable change me value for, and then an empty player. Let's go ahead and drag and drop active, duplicate it into those player slots. And then we don't want to grab the variable change me. So let's click on that drop down that says change me. And for the high score, select high score. And then for the games played, select games played. All right. And then for the high score, I did that wrong because I'm not paying attention, but I'll correct it in a second. Let's go to the games played. For the games played, we're going to do +1. So in the B section, go ahead and either duplicate or put a number 1 in there. Whether you go to the values tab or you can duplicate another number from anywhere and just change it to 1. So for games played, it should say get user persistent variable games played for value of active and then +1. For high score is a little bit different. For high score, we're actually going to delete what we put in there. So delete the plus sign, delete the get persistent variable. And we're going to simply put the variable score. So go to your variables tab, get that score, and plug it into value. And so it should say set high score to score for active. But we only want to update this if they got a higher score than their previous games. Because let's say I got 100 points in my first game, right? And in the second game, I only got 30. Do I want to update it to 30? I don't. So we're going to grab an if. So go to your go to your events tab. Let's grab an if. Let's put it at the top of the game over. So inside of game over, let's put it at the very top. And now we just need to check one thing. If go to your operations, grab a less than symbol. Okay, so if on the B side, go ahead and put in the score. And then on the A side, go ahead and let's go to the values tab, grab get player persistent variable pill, plug it into the A. Go ahead and put active as the player. So get player persistent variable change me for value active less than and then score. Change the change me to high score. And then the last part is simply dragging the set high score to score for active. Drag that underneath the if. So it's nested to the if. And that should look good. So PPVs are being set. Now we just need to add the leaderboards. Okay. So to do that, we're going to stay in the game over. We're going to go to the values. Underneath get player persistent variable, you'll see set world leaderboard score for player. Let's grab that.
Where's values?
Yeah, it should say set world leaderboard score
Okay,
for
found it.
player. We're gonna put one underneath the excuse me, we're gonna put one underneath the set high score for player active under that if. Let's put one right there, right below that set high score to score for active. And then we're gonna put a second one underneath the games played, set games played. Put another one there.
Okay.
So we should have two. Let's go ahead and plug in active for the player empty player pills. Let's go ahead and change the change me's. So let's do set for high score where it should be, and then set games played for where the games played should be at the very bottom. And then we need to get rid of those zeros because we don't want to set it to 0. So let's just get rid of those zeros, delete them. And we're going to go to the values and drag that get player persistent variable again into the value for each of those. It's asking us again for a player. Go ahead and drop active. And then we need to do the change me's again. So switch it to high score for high score and games played for games played. And while you're finishing that, I'm going to grab a couple leaderboards out so we can actually test it. Where's the leaderboard? Okay. All right, so I grab a leaderboard here. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to put up to 10. I'm going to have you go ahead work on this one. So we're going to have one to be for games played and one for be for score. So work on that one on the left. So let's do, for yours, let's do games played. So what you want to do, open up the properties panel of the leaderboard. At the very top, you see this option that says leaderboard and a drop down. Click on that drop down and pick which leaderboard you want to display. So you will pick games played. I will pick highest score. And then the next thing it says displayed title. That's this title that's up here. So let's go ahead and let's change that to our respective titles. I'm going to name mine high score. You can name it games played or total games played, however you want. And everything else is fine. All right, everything else looks good. Let's go ahead and see it works. Let's test it out. Let's test it out. We're at the end here. All right. So you have 60 seconds. I'll have 60 seconds. Let me go ahead and play my game. And let's see if our leaderboards update after the game is over. Because again, these persistent variables only update when the game is over. So that's after the 60 seconds. So let's see how many points I can get. And you guys can see the balls are just flowing around here. So we haven't scripted for the balls to return, but we need to do that as well. Maybe in a second video, we'll, or in the part 2 where we cover the game fidelity and kind of like scripting for the balls after you throw them. They'll come back and you don't have to go chase after them. I have 180. I have 20 seconds left. Oh, we have someone cheating over here.
I'm not cheating.
You have 7 seconds left. I have 13 seconds left. I am whooping you right now. All right, her
Listen,
timer
I
is
wasn't
over.
playing.
And look at that. Look who's on the leaderboard.
I scripted it right. Yeah.
And there you go.
Number
And
one,
my game is
like
over.
always.
Not on this leaderboard. So there we have it. Don't fall off the world now. So there we have it. So we have the leaderboards working. We have the player presenter variables working. Um, game manager working. Um, we will leave the rest for the next part, which we will go ahead and cover finishing up the game manager so we can reset the game. We already did the leaderboard, so I'm going to cross that off, and then the game fidelity. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that we can get these balls to auto return after they hit the ground. They'll just come back. And then we'll even make it where the rings can move as well. We'll add that. And then obviously we have to put in systems for people can't just simply go ahead and slam dunk it like Sassy likes to do over here. So we're gonna put systems to make sure people can't cheat the game and or give the ball to another player to for them to throw it on their behalf, and you get the points. So we'll cover that in the next session. I hope you guys enjoyed this part, and see you in the next part.